A day after the bullpen did so much and the offense did so little, the Rangers completely flipped the script, getting 7 runs from their offense and an absolute gem from MacKenzie Gore.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and best daily Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Paddock, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering the team for 13 seasons, including all 8 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Not already, can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Paddock. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, I'm talking about MacKenzie Gore's peculiar but very good start, the longest of his career. This offense finally finding their bats, why Skip Schumacher is pushing the exact right buttons, and a lack of an injury update on one of the Rangers' best starting pitchers, but a little bit more of an injury update on a couple other guys in this team on the IL. But let's start with MacKenzie Gore. A fantastic outing for MacKenzie Gore, who had never gone more than 7 innings in his career. He had reached 7 innings several times earlier in his career, never with the Rangers so far. And in this one, he goes 8 innings of 1-run ball, the only run coming off of a solo shot by Ildemaro Vargas, who is inexplicably one of the hottest hitters on the planet right now, rocking a 935 OPS. But this was a absolute gem from MacKenzie Gore, who hadn't even made it past 6 innings so far this year. The longest start as a Texas Ranger was 6 innings, 3 runs, 2 homers, 9 strikeouts against the Cincinnati Reds back on April 3rd. He threw 88 pitches in that one. His season high for pitches was 106 in 5 innings against the Athletics back on April 25th. But this one, 8 innings on just 95 pitches, 63 of those for strikes. This was a masterclass on MacKenzie Gore, just straight up pounding the zone. And now I do want to heap a lot of praise on MacKenzie Gore for going 8 innings, for allowing just 3 hits, just 1 walk, the only run coming off of that solo shot, but only 5 strikeouts for him in this one. And it was kind of a peculiar night for MacKenzie Gore in that he was not getting a lot of swings and misses. Now, MacKenzie Gore has been a swing and miss artist. He has been not quite Blake Snell, but kind of Blake Snell-esque in that he's not going to go very deep into games. He has been, pretty healthy in his career so far, and he has not pitched a whole lot of innings in his career. A lot of the reason because, it seems like, not to completely blame the Washington Nationals, but to a little bit blame the Washington Nationals. When he came up, and for the entirety of his big league career up to this point, he had one of the worst defense, if not consistently the worst defense in all of baseball behind him, which means with the guy with the stuff, that the caliber that he has, it can be a little bit tempting to say, well, if my defense isn't going to convert these, balls hit weekly into outs, then I'm going to have to need to do this all myself. And you can get a little bit reliant on the strikeout of saying, I've got to strike out literally everybody, which will take a whole lot more pitches, which explains why he's not going as deep into games. It's kind of been the story for him. He's been a guy who has got, all the best stuff in the world. I mean, a lefty who sits in the mid to upper 90s. There are not a whole lot of starting pitchers like that in the game. And his curveball is truly singular. It is a sensational pitch. The cutter is a very good pitch for him. The changeup, when it's working, it's also fantastic. The slider, which he occasionally rips off against left-handed hitters, is also very, very good. All of that working around his four-seam fastball, which was the pitch that he threw by far the most in this one. More than half the time, 49 four-seam fastballs in this one. And the peculiar thing about it is that he was not getting a whole lot of swings and misses. Actually, barely any swings and misses throughout this game. Only 8 swings and misses on 49 swings. A lot of foul balls, a lot of balls put into play, but a lot of his defense doing work behind him. Some, really nice plays out there in center field by Evan Carter. Some nice plays at shortstop from Corey Seager. Some nice plays by Zeke Duran at second. I mean, at first base, at third base, everybody was really doing their part defensively for MacKenzie Gore in this one, who I don't know if he necessarily had an edict, but it's pretty understood. Literally the night before, Nathan Eovaldi has to get scratched from his start last minute. The bullpen puts on a masterclass, 1 run in 9 innings. I mean, just great work from Peyton Gray, from Jacob Junis, from everybody who pitched in that game last night. And the bullpen was a little tired, obviously. They had to pitch 9 innings in a game, and they only got told at 4 p.m. And I mean, Skip Schumacher was raving about what the bullpen did in that game where the Rangers offense was not able to do much ending. We'll talk about the offense in the second segment, but MacKenzie Gore, knowing the edict that I've got to save my pen, I've got to get some early outs, I've got to get some weak contact, and he was unbelievably economical with his pitch count. Outside of the second inning, where he got into a little bit of trouble, had 2 of his 4 base runners that he allowed all day. One of them the home run, one of them the only walk in this one. Goes 21 pitches in that second inning. Outside of that, first inning, 8 pitches, third inning, 9 pitches, 9 pitches in the fourth, 9 pitches in the fifth, 14 in the sixth, 10 in the seventh, 15 in the eighth inning, and he still had some velocity on that 4-seam fastball all the way into the 8th inning, averaging 95.1 miles an hour, whereas in the first inning he averaged 94.8. So ticking it up a little bit in that 8th inning, showing you this is the kind of stuff that you dream on an ace. Don't look at what the other guys who the Rangers traded away to go get MacKenzie Gore doing right now, because the ones that are playing, it's not necessarily a pretty picture, but this is the kind of start that you were dreaming on when you got a MacKenzie Gore. Now, this is not, I don't want to say this is peak MacKenzie Gore, because peak MacKenzie Gore is doing all this, but also getting an obscene amount of strikeouts. I think the ideal version of MacKenzie Gore is kind of a marriage between the two extremes. This was a good version. This is exactly what he needed to do on this day. Don't get me wrong. This was exactly what MacKenzie Gore needed to do on this day. Now, in a playoff spot against a team that is maybe a little bit better than these Diamondbacks right now, I mean, it's not the best Diamondbacks team at this point. Their lineup is not doing all that great. I was just deeply surprised by Ketel Marte going 0 for 4 in this one. Ketel Marte is not having a great start to the season. But the thing about Marte is he does a lot of things well, but the last 3, 4, 5 years, he has been one of the best hitters in all of baseball against left-handed pitching. Just any left-hander, you throw Ketel Marte in the box there, he's swinging it right-handed as a switch hitter, he is going to crush it the vast majority of the time. So holding Ketel Marte to 0 for 4 is very, very impressive. And of course, the one lefty in this lineup, the one true lefty in this lineup, I should say, Corbin Carroll, going 1 for 3 with a walk and accounting for basically not quite half, but almost half of all the base runners in this game for the Diamondbacks. Just kind of fitting, because Corbin Carroll was just truly singular. But this was exceptional for MacKenzie Gore. And if he can do more of this moving forward, I mean, he can start to bring that ERA down even a little bit more, just pitch deeper into games with the Rangers really need. They haven't gotten a whole lot of that from MacKenzie Gore. They haven't gotten a whole lot of that from really the bottom 3 guys in their rotation. And Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker have also struggled at times to pitch deep into game. Now, Rocker has had a couple of those where he's pitched pretty deep, and Leiter has looked a lot better as of late. Even that start where he lost on Sunday Night Baseball to the Detroit Tigers, I mean, Leiter was pitching pretty darn deep into that game as well. But when you're occasionally having to have these bullpen games, having a game like that where you go 8 innings and your offense is able to spot you some runs and you're able to just go at these guys. I mean, he was given all 7 runs in the first 5 innings. And after that point, I mean, that was when he was really just mowing guys down. I mean, even in those middle innings, right after a tough inning in the second where he gave up the only run that he would surrender in this one, his offense carry him back. They got another run. They already gave him the lead in the first inning with the very first batter. We'll talk about Jock Peterson in just a second. But even though they say, hey, they gave up the run, gave up the lead, it's fine. We'll get 1 run back in the second. We'll get another run in the third. And then we'll pour on several more, or 1 more in the fourth and 4 more in the 5th inning, and just get this guys back and get this team back on track after what was a very frustrating loss the other day. I mean, just not exactly what this team was looking for, but MacKenzie Gore gave his team exactly what they needed. And seeing him be able to do this is not something we've really seen him be able to do at all. I mean, he had never pitched, I don't think, even in the 8th inning, let alone into and through the 8th inning. And maybe the Rangers been a little bit more desperate, sitting at 95 pitches. I don't think there was a scenario where MacKenzie Gore was going to go for the if he was a little bit more economical in that second inning and he didn't give up, the run and was going for a shutout or had a no hitter going, maybe that's where MacKenzie Gore goes out there in the ninth inning with 95 pitches. But at 95 pitches, getting you through 8 innings and handing it off to the bullpen, which we'll talk about probably first in that next segment, that Gavin Collier did not have the best birthday, but knowing you've got, a 6-run lead going 8 innings, 1-run ball, this was a new version of MacKenzie Gore that adds a wrinkle that he had desperately needed, and this Rangers needed very badly in this moment. He came up in such a big, big way. Might not have been the traditional MacKenzie Gore, just grip it and rip it and get a crap ton of strikeouts, but it was just what this team needed. This show is brought to you by KALSHI. Baseball season is here, and now you can trade on every game on KALSHI. They've also got not just games, but also all kinds of different awards you can bet on. Right now, AL Comeback Play of the Year. The leader right now is Yordan Alvarez at 61%. Mike Trout down there at 31% for Comeback Play of the Year in the American League. Let's see, National League Manager of the Year, Don Kelly, the second favorite at 23%. Walt Weiss at 31%. That feels very, very fitting. And Paul Skeens, of course, right now, NL Cy Young favorite, 40%, and Shohei Ohtani at 17%. So on KALSHI, you aren't trading against your peers. You're trading against your peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. For a limited time, download the KALSHI app and use code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade 10. KALSHI, KALSHI. Trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. Shout out to the Air making Locked On Rangers first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, I'll be back and talking about the finale of this series. Hopefully, a series win for the Rangers. Kumar Rocker versus Ryan Nelson. If you want to be part of the Everydayers Club, go to LockedOnTexasRangers.supercast.com to join the Everydayers Club today. Now, the Rangers got great pitching from most of the guys who pitched in this one. MacKenzie Gore coming in, 8 innings of 1-run ball. Gavin Collier, happy belated birthday, or maybe it wasn't quite as happy of a belated birthday to the young right-handed fireballer coming in a 6-run lead, leaving with less than that in terms of the lead, making your closer get up in a game where you are leading 7-1 in the 9th inning. It's not ideal, and deeply ironic that the broadcast was just talking about while he was getting into this game of saying, yeah, Gavin Collier, yeah, the Rangers are thinking about giving him some more high leverage spots. Probably not after this outing where you face 4 batters, just 1 over the required minimum, give up 3 walks on just some pretty egregious misses. Occasionally, this can be Gavin Collier's curse. This can be what happens to him. He had a 0 ERA coming into this game and leaves with a 2.79 ERA, 3 runs to his ledger. Now 7 walks in 9 2/3 innings, did not even get an out. The 1 hit that he allowed was just a single to shallow center field that allowed just 1 run to score, runners to go station to station. The other 2 runs that he left, 2 of the other runs that he left on base did end up scoring. Jacob Latz coming in, getting a 1-2-3 inning, not allowing any hits or walks or striking anybody out. It's a little odd getting a closer who has been so good, who just does not have all that many strikeouts, just 7.1 Ks per 9. But that's kind of been the whole vibe of this pen. But Jacob Latz coming in there and getting his 5th save of the season. I mean, the closer job just suits him. He looks incredibly comfortable, even in quite literally the worst possible jam you could come into. Well, I guess by the situation, not necessarily by the score. If it was a tie game, coming in with the bases loaded and 0 outs, that is the only way this could have been really much worse. But the Rangers still had plenty of lead there. It becomes a safe situation despite having a 6-run lead heading into this inning. The Rangers had a 6-run lead. Good for Jacob Latz closing out this one. Gavin Collier, whenever Chris Martin comes back, which we'll talk about in the 3rd segment of Chris Martin's first rehab outing happening in AAA yesterday, wasn't as great. It was allowed a few more runs, or at least one more run than Gavin Collier. But this offense was able to get hits with runners in scoring position in a big way. A change up to this lineup. Jock Peterson leading off, where he has spent the vast majority of his career, more games than any other spot in the lineup. Jock Peterson has been a leadoff hitter many, many times, and it quite immediately pays some dividends. A solo shot for Jock Peterson, his third homer of the season. The Rangers got a couple of home runs in this one, both of them solo shots, so it could have been maybe even a little bit worse had those Rangers home runs come with runners on base, because the Rangers had plenty of opportunities with runners in scoring position. But actually, in this one, they did something with it, which they have not done a very good job of at home or just in general this season, going 4 for 9 with those runners in scoring position. A couple of RBI base knocks for Jake Berger. He had 3 hits in this one and also worked a walk. Good to see him getting back in on the action. Ezekiel Duran had a couple of hits in this one, also worked a walk, had a couple of runs driven in. One of them, a solo shot to right field on a ball that had an expected batting average below 100, but still would have been a home run in, I believe, about half of the ballparks in this one. 11 ballparks out of 30, a .060 expected batting average on a home run. Just incredible bit of work from Zeke Duran, who continues to be a big part of this lineup. I'm a little surprised the Rangers moved him so far down in this lineup, since he's been one of the few consistently very good hitters in this lineup, but it worked. It absolutely worked. I mean, Jock Peterson does only get that one hit. The leadoff homer goes 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts for the rest of this game. One of those other hits that was not a strikeout ended up being a lineup that had there been a little bit headier base running on a play by Alejandro Ozuna, but had he not been tagged in a double play that was just supremely played by Nolan Arenado, who looks very much like a better version of Nolan Arenado than we have seen in many, many years. But this was a great change for this lineup. Even some of Jock Peterson's strikeouts in the bottom of the 5th inning, that's where the Rangers scored 5 runs leading off that inning with the top of the lineup. Jock Peterson does strike out, but he sees 9 pitches, gets called out on a 3rd strike, which most of these strikeouts for Zach Gallen were called 3rd strikes that were either mostly or just pretty perfectly placed, at least in the first inning. 3 straight strikeouts on balls that were, one of them was right down the middle for Josh Young. Not a great pitch for him to see and strike out on after that solo shot to lead off the game, and then a Brandon Nimmo single following it up. Nimmo hitting in the 2-hole, and he did a fantastic job in that 2nd spot in the order, getting 3 hits, including a triple where he ended up scoring on a ground out by Corey Seager. Ends up leaving the game a little bit later on, despite staying in for one batter after reaching on an infield single where he turned his ankle a little bit. Thankfully, x-rays came back. Brandon Nimmo was fine, but the Rangers just wanted to be a little bit extra cautious. They took some x-rays after the game. He was fighting to stay in and did stay in for literally one batter before he got pinch ran for by Sam Haggerty later on in that game. But still, good to see this offense just pouncing on some of these opportunities. Some good at-bats with runners in scoring position, some extra base hits finally for this Ranger squad that has not done a whole lot of that. I mean, if they can start to get some of these extra base hits with runners in scoring position. Again, the big hit has just been something that has completely eluded them. But, starting off that 5th inning with your leadoff hitter being Jock Peterson, seeing 9 pitches, just kind of exhausting Zach Gallen at that point. I mean, fouling off pitch after pitch after pitch, taking close pitch after close pitch, and then Zach Gallen just ends up getting him with a really well-placed pitch for a called 3rd strike. Brandon Nimmo says, okay, I am ready to hit. I have seen a lot of pitches while in the on-deck circle. Let me just jump on the first thing I see if it's a good pitch. Gallen, who is exhausted at this point, has thrown 9 pitches just to get 1 out, hangs a knuckle curve to just try and get me over strike right down the middle of the plate. Brandon says, thank you, I'll take that. And he triples, hitting it 108 miles an hour to center field. And Waldschmidt, who had been just an absolute vacuum out there in center field for that first game of the series, grabbing basically everything, leaps at a ball that Brandon Nimmo hits and cannot quite get it. Corey Seager reaches on a fielder's choice, and then Josh Young gets a hit. Evan Carter nearly reaches base, but a fantastic play by Ketel Marte, who has not been great offensively, but defensively is just as good as he's ever been. Then Zeke Duran pours on another run with a little bloop single to the shortstop shortstop, Geraldo Perdomo, who did his best to even get to this ball, but is sliding while he is trying to set himself to make the throw, bobbles it because he can't get his feet set, drops it a little bit. So 1 run gets home. Josh Jung thinks about trying to score on that one, ends up staying put. Another good bit of base running, smart base running by this team, just to stay a little bit cautious, to not do too much, to not get thrown out on the bases like a nincompoop at that point, especially with 2 outs. This Rangers team being able to not only get hits with runners in scoring position, but do some 2-out rallying. I mean, most of these runs scored with 2 outs in this game. Alejandro Ozuna thanks Josh Jung for not trying to be too aggressive and getting thrown out at the plate, and he bloops him home with an RBI single. Jake Berger hits his second RBI single of the day. Kyle Higashioka strikes out swinging on the 6th pitch of the at-bat. Finally, the Rangers continue to get some of these starting pitchers out before the end of the 5th inning, getting into this bullpen early. Brandon Pfaadt was able to basically close this thing out from the losing side, going 3 innings. So at least the Diamondbacks didn't have to use that much of their pen in this one, but still, this was a good job by this offense to get some kind of a spark, to take advantage of these opportunities with runners in scoring position, to drive some runs home, to give some run support to MacKenzie Gore so he could just go out there and attack guys, and pitch deep into this game just like he did. This was a very complete win, a nice bounce back win, and nice for the Rangers to get some runs on the board at home, something they have not done a good job of doing. Corey Seager's 0 for streak still continues, and it moves to 0 for 23 at this point. A couple of balls that he has hit hard in this streak, but still, it's a little bit worrisome seeing your best hitter be in this kind of a slump, hitting 184 at this point with a 654 OPS. Not really what you're hoping for from your best hitter, but if the rest of this lineup can pick this team up and continue to score, if they can score 7 runs with Corey Seager going 0 for 4 with a strikeout and an RBI groundout, that bodes well for this offense moving forward. I know Zach Gallen is not exactly the best pitcher this year. He has a 5.65 ERA, and his ERA started with a 5 coming into this game. But still, this is a good sign for this lineup, who might be getting some reinforcements back by the end of this month in a big way that they desperately need. We'll talk about that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by Rocket Money. If you've ever opened your bank account and thought, where'd all my money go? You're not alone. Keeping track of subscriptions, spending, and bills can get overwhelming fast. That's where Rocket Money comes in, helping you take control of your finances all in one place. It tracks all your subscriptions in one spot and can help you cancel the ones that you don't need with just a few taps. It automatically categorizes your spending so you can see exactly where all your money is going. And you can also set budgets, get alerts, and stay on top of upcoming bills. It just makes everything feel more organized and gives you a clearer picture of your finances day to day. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitor your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Now, the Rangers were able to bounce back and get the win in this one, hopefully getting a series win, starting a stretch where the Rangers are playing a much more favorable type of schedule. Heading into this series, the Rangers had the highest opponent win percentage against, meaning that basically everybody it felt like they were playing was a playoff contender or a World Series contender, or just at that point for the last week, basically the Rangers have played a team with either the best or close to the best record in all of baseball in the Yankees and the Cubs, and they ended up going 3-3 in that stretch, and maybe could have gone a little bit better had some things not gone awry. But alas, this is where the Rangers are at this point. They are sitting at 20-22, a couple games below 500, and waiting on some news on who has been their best pitcher at times this year. Nathan Eovaldi scratched from his latest start. The Rangers are just kind of sitting and playing the waiting game right now. They don't really know what's happening with Eovaldi on a given day. He might end up feeling great. Some days he might end up feeling bad, but it's kind of one of those things where you just have to wait and see. His next start is scheduled to be on Sunday. Right now, David Davalillo, who is one of the Rangers' top pitching prospects, he is one of the basically the only option I'd say right now in the minor leagues that is on the 40-man roster, who I think could come up and give you a start or two. Maybe at this point, you're hoping that ends up not being the case. He is right now on the taxi squad. He is hanging around in Arlington, but overall, we're hoping that we get to see Nathan Eovaldi on Sunday, but is just kind of waiting game at this point. The Rangers have just said as much of we don't really know at this point. It is just one of those things where if you try and push through it, it could make it a whole lot worse, and he could end up spending a whole lot more time on the IL. He might not end up spending time on the IL. He might make his start on Sunday, but we don't really know at this point. And the waiting game is not ideal, especially because with an IL stand, if the Rangers do have to place Nathan Eovaldi on the IL, you can only make it retroactive 3 days at most. So instead of the Rangers just being able to make it retroactive to the last time he made a start, and he would only have to miss basically, if he has to miss this start on Sunday, if the Rangers were able to make it retroactive to the last time he made a start, he would only end up missing one more start. But at this point, you can only make it, retroactive to 3 days. So if we get to Sunday and he's not ready and the Rangers had to place him on the IL, it will be basically a month or so that he ends up not pitching, or at least 3 weeks at that point, which is not really what you're looking for with one of the two best pitchers on your squad, especially coming off of that start where he, just threw 7 shutout innings against the Yankees and looked freaking awesome. I mean, he looks awesome in these last couple of starts. I mean, the Raiders don't play the Yankees anymore, so maybe he's not going to have any more starts to 7 innings of shutout baseball and just striking out basically everybody and looking like an absolute monster out there. But still, it is not an ideal situation, but it is where the Rangers are at this point. The Rangers also have another guy who is maybe coming back at some point soon. Chris Martin is on the 15-day IL. He is probably going to be the first Rangers reliever of the several that are on the IL right now to come back. Carter Baumler has suffered a setback, and he will probably be out for another 2 months. We'll see what that means for him and his Rule 5 status, if the Rangers are just going to roll it over to next year and he's just going to miss all of this year. He has to spend 90 days on the active roster, and he's got, I think, 8 days at this point on the active roster, meaning he'd have to come back around the 4th of July and stay on the active roster and healthy through the end of the season for the Rangers to retain his rights. So that just makes things a whole lot more complicated. But Chris Martin played in a day game in yesterday's game for the Round Rock Express. Did not look particularly great. 4 hits, 2 home runs, 4 runs given up in 2/3 of an inning. But he got off the mound and he was not any more hurt, hasn't suffered any additional setbacks. So with how many setbacks so many of these Rangers have had in their rehab stint, you kind of say, all right, fine, sure. At least he didn't suffer an additional setback, because Wyatt Langford is still sitting on the IL. He's feeling better. He's feeling significantly better. He is also in a holding pattern. He is on the IL with a right forearm strain that he sustained after hitting his first home run of the season. Just really a bummer that was what actually no, that was a glute injury. Sorry, this has happened. There's been just multiple soft tissue injuries for Wyatt Langford. It's kind of hard to keep track at this point. He was supposed to be back about a week ago, and ended up playing 1 minor league game, having 1 at bat, and then having to get paused in his rehab because he aggravated that right forearm yet again. And it was supposed to be just the minimal 10 days on the shelf. That is not going to end up being the case. He is feeling better. The Rangers brought in a forearm specialist to say, all right, what are we doing with this? What do we do wrong? How can we handle this better? So we make sure that when he comes back, he stays back and is able to, not sustain this kind of an injury or make it worse and make him miss even more time. He is hopeful that he is going to start a hitting progression at some point soon. There's no determined date at that point. He is hoping ideally to be back within 2 to 3 weeks, which would be basically the end of this month or maybe early June. Being without him for an entire month at this point is not ideal with how rough this lineup has been. But thankfully, the guys who have been in his stead stepping up have really been doing exactly that. I mean, the Rangers have been terrible against left-handed pitching, and they've become pretty left-handed heavy. And the guys who they have in their lineup to just simply hit left-handed pitching have not really done that at this point. Andrew McCutchen has not really done a great job of that. Sam Haggerty has not done a good job of hitting against quite literally anybody. Foscue has had a brief moment or two of some offensive fireworks, but overall, not a whole lot going on there. And so bringing Wyatt Langford back would be huge for this lineup, giving the Rangers another, not only just great player, but a great fielder out there. Defensively, it will raise their ceiling. Offensively, it will raise their ceiling. Langford was finally looking, his overall numbers this year aren't particularly pretty, but right before he landed on the IL, he was looking a whole lot more like the Wyatt Langford we had seen in seasons past. He is a very talented player, a very, very talented hitter, and I had no doubt that he would come around. But with him and Josh Smith landing on the IL, the guys who have stepped up in their stead, Alejandro Ozuna especially, has been doing a fantastic job. Ozuna has been just such a breath of fresh air in this lineup, a guy who is not going to hit for a lot of power, has only one extra base hit so far this season in 44 plate appearances, but he's hitting 286. He's getting on base at an elite 432 clip. He feels like the only safe bet when there's a runner in scoring position. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's just a bloop single. It actually usually is a bloop single for Alejandro Ozuna, but he will do whatever it takes to get that runner home. He does a good job of working quality at bats, getting on base at a good clip, working pitchers, not just seeing the first pitch and immediately popping out or striking out on 3 straight pitches outside the zone. He knows the zone very, very well. That is a skill set he has always had. The defense has been there's been a couple of plays that haven't been particularly great for him, but for the most part, he's been pretty darn solid out there defensively in left field. He, of course, doesn't have the speed of Wyatt Langford. Very few people on this planet do, but he has done a very good job out there being called up and playing a big role for the time being. I mean, he has been an impact hitter for this Rangers squad. Now, he's not going to be, winning any batting titles or, any, home run titles, but still, it doesn't matter. The Rangers don't really need, they could always use an Aaron Judge or Yordan Alvarez or a 2025 offensive Shohei Ohtani, because this year he's been a little bit less than the old Shohei Ohtani. You could always use a peak Josh Hamilton in this lineup, but this lineup doesn't need to be a top 5 lineup to win games for the squad. The pitching staff is good. The bullpen is good. The rotation has the potential and at times has looked very, very good. This lineup just needs to be league average. I mean, heck, on Monday, scoring 2 runs would have won this game. 2 runs would have won this entire game, and the Rangers could not do that. Getting a game like this, scoring 7 runs, which I believe is the most runs they have scored in a game at home so far this season, is a big, big moment. Having the roof open, maybe the Rangers need to just do that again. Just have the roof open significantly more often, and maybe the Rangers will have more games like this where they'll score 7 runs in a game. I don't know. Maybe that will be the case. Maybe if not for the roof being open, then the Rangers, I think Jock Peterson's home run might have gone foul if not for the roof being open. And then I don't know if Zeke Duran, if his home run would have just dinked over the fence if the roof had not been open. I guess we'll never know at this point, but hopefully this Rangers team can just continue to get a little bit more offense and at least hold steady while they are waiting for these reinforcements like Wyatt Langford, like Josh Smith to get back, to get healthy and to be a part of this lineup and get them back to being at least average. And who knows if Seager starts to figure it out, maybe even above average. At that point, who knows how good this team would be. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.